Okay, hello everyone, and welcome to our Summer Breeze webinar series. My name is Rob Hamilton. I am the Executive Vice President of Sales here at Roundstone. And unfortunately, I'm old enough to recognize that song by Crosby, Stills and Nash, Summer Breeze. Reminds me of growing up in the Midwest. So hopefully you enjoyed that little introduction. We have a great discussion teed up today as part of our summer six-pack. And excuse me, for the next 30 minutes, we'll be talking about how to simplify the switch from fully insured to a more cost-effective, self-funded health plan. Some employers and advisors we talk to bring up the fear and apprehension of what appears to be a complicated transition. So we're here to demystify that perception. In fact, we've broken it down to 3 easy steps, which we'll get into shortly. So first, just a couple housekeeping items. The first, if you have any questions throughout the discussion, please feel free to utilize the Q&A function down at the bottom of your screen. And secondly, the webinar is being recorded. So post-event, we will send the recording out to everyone if you'd like to watch it or share it with someone else. Excuse me. Okay, so joining me today are 2 Roundstone self-funding experts. The first is Eddie Castro, who is one of our regional practice leaders.
Morning.
Welcome, Eddie, and thank you. And our second panelist is Lisa Kerr, who is Bywater's Strategic Onboarding Manager.
Good morning, thank you.
Welcome, Lisa. So just to make sure everyone's aware who Bywater is, those of you who are on the call, whether you're an employer or a client, it's very possible you've heard of Bywater already, and it's also very possible that you're currently working directly with them. For those of you not familiar with Bywater, it is Roundstone's in-house third-party administrator. Several years ago, we started to notice that a lot of the TPAs in the mid-market space were starting to consolidate, and there was a reduced number of TPAs available for the size employer that we work with. So we decided to start our own TPA, and today we have well over 100 groups on that platform, and it's performing well. Okay, so let's get started. As I promised, we have broken down this transition to self-funding into 3 easy steps. Number 1, select the right benefits advisor. Number 2, select the best funding strategy. And number 3, select the right TPA, PBM, and network. So Eddie, let's get things started with you. What is the first step in selecting the right benefits advisor?
Thanks, Rob. You said it earlier. There's a real misconception in the market that transitioning from fully insured to self-funded is difficult, requires a lot of bandwidth, resources, and really a lot of groups think it's only meant for larger employers. What I've experienced firsthand is that simply isn't true. Just looking at my clients who range from as little as 20 employees to over 300 employees, they are taking advantage of our variable funding model and gaining transparency, control, and cost savings, just like the big guys are. And the common denominator that I see is that they're all working with the right advisor. So step 1 for an employer is to make sure you have the right advisor working with you to help you in that transition.
So the right advisor. I should mention that those advisors joining on this call today, we feel fit into that category that we refer to as a consultant, right? You know, there's a lot of times this status quo broker, and then there's the consultant or trusted advisor. Can you kind of explain the difference between the two, Eddie?
Yeah, not all advisors are created equal, right? There's two different kinds of, and the way at least my observation is that they really fall into two separate categories. We have the advisor, or what we refer to as the broker, right? This is the 12-month rate shopper. We often refer to them jokingly as spreadsheeters. They don't take the time to educate their clients on the advantages of self-funding. They aren't always looking at the long-term solutions for their clients, but rather hitting the easy button and just renewing and offering the same insurance programs every other advisor can offer. Often they have limited presence with their clients. They see the client at the sale and maybe at renewal time, but they often hand off the group to an account executive who then becomes the main contact for that group. They aren't looking at the reporting provided by the TPA or by Roundstone, or necessarily collaborating with myself, one of the RPLs here at Roundstone, or our cost containment team to help identify potential savings opportunities for the group. So that would be one category, right? That's the broker. Then we have the folks that are on this call today, which is the trusted advisor. This is the consultant who's recommending solutions best for their client, not for their pocketbook. They are often open-minded. I like to say they have the heart of a teacher. They educate their clients along the way and often meet with them throughout the year a number of times just to touch base with them, review reports quarterly, usually on a quarterly basis. So they're very accessible to the group. They're in constant contact and reviewing client data and consulting with not only myself, but Roundstone's underwriting team, our cost containment team, maybe additional cost containment providers in the marketplace that really help the group drive down their costs for their healthcare plan, which ultimately is the goal at the end of the day. So they aren't deferring to the 12-month fully insured merry-go-round of changing providers every year, going through that exercise annually, but rather looking for a long-term solution for their clients. So just to recap, step one is very important, and that is to have the right benefit advisor to help you.
Great points, Eddie. And if I may, the one common denominator I've heard throughout your reply was data reporting, right? So if a broker wants to transition from a broker to a consultant or a trusted advisor, you need data, right? To offer those strategic cost containment solutions that long-term help employers control this cost and long-term help improve the care that the benefits experience. So great insight there, Eddie. So Lisa, I'd like to hear from your perspective what you view or what role an advisor would take if he's in that, you know, that trusted advisor category.
Yeah, so really Eddie said it best, Rob. A trusted advisor is what really makes a good advisor and in turn helps build the foundation between us and the client. The client in most cases is moving from fully insured to self-funded, which can be a bit intimidating, like Eddie mentioned. An advisor that is fully invested has the trust of the client, which then will allow for the client to feel at ease with the change, knowing that their best interest is at the forefront. In my experience, the client is then open to the process to making this change. Many successful experiences will often start with a separate call with Bywater, Roundstone, and the advisor only. This gives us an opportunity to fully prepare in advance for the onboarding call with the client, giving us full insight on the client, what their needs are, and we can even ask the advisor questions on behalf of the client in order to just get additional information and prepare us for that onboarding call where the client isn't being inundated with questions but it allows for that experience and first call with us to be more of an education piece. So it is truly a collaboration to be sure that the client feels that there is a team supporting them. The client will definitely feel that, and I think that makes a huge difference in the entire process as a whole. So really, it just comes down to sticking with the basics, and it's just being present for the client.
Yeah, so it sounds like, and frankly, I'm not surprised to hear this, Lisa, that the onboarding piece is critical. For
Absolutely.
these groups making their transition to self-funding. So is there any other insights that relates specifically to onboarding that really separates these advisors?
Yeah, so in many cases, when Bywater is involved in the process, we are nearing close to the effective date at that point. The best onboarding experience that the client can have is when it happens prior to their open enrollment meetings with their employees. This is giving us the opportunity to prepare the client the best way possible to communicate their plans, go over their plans, and make sure that the materials are handed out to them that support the change. It's giving us time for housekeeping discussions and just having an overall understanding of what the change means and how we're going to implement it. Advisors that are hands-off or allow for a rushed implementation, this will, no doubt, impact the member. It'll cause some member disruption. We won't be able to get ID cards in hand. There might be confusion with the change and the plans that are being put in place. We are, in most cases, always dealing with a network change. So it's just the little things like that that we need to be prepared for in order to give to the employees to be best prepared for that change. And we don't want the client or the members to feel overwhelmed because then at that point, they might feel regretful or just overwhelmed in the decision, and that's just starting off on the wrong foot.
That's great insight, Lisa. And as a salesperson who's tried to ram through some quick bindings through, it's so important to do it, to have that time in advance to educate everyone involved so that there's no surprises. So I just noticed we got a question which is relative to this step in the process. And the question is, what should I do if I don't think my advisor knows enough about self-funding to help me make the switch? Eddie, you want to grab that one? That's an interesting question.
That is an interesting question. So lucky for that employer, we have a stable of what we call our top partner advisors that have a real deep understanding of our solution, how it works, how it affects the group, and whether or not they're a good fit for this type of solution. Because let's be honest, not every group might be a good fit for a group captive solution. So it's important. That's another reason, again, the advisor is a key step, and that number one step there is to meet with that group, understand their risk profile, what they look like, what they're trying to achieve, their goals, and then refer them or help them transition to either self-funding or whatever program makes the most sense for that group. But Roundstone can help by recommending or referring an advisor partner.
Great, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so let's move on to step 2. So we got the right advisor in the mix here, and so Eddie, what's the next step?
So this is the next step is to select the best funding strategy for your healthcare program. Again, working with that advisor, meeting with the group, understanding what the options are for the market that we're talking to, whether it's a small business, medium-sized business, or large business. Before we get into the great parts of what a group captive is and how we help our clients, it's important to understand what the options are right now in the marketplace. And really, there's about 3 options that most small and mid-sized employers have. They have a fully insured option, right? This is 100% fixed cost. Oftentimes if you're under 100, you have limited or no reporting at all. The group typically doesn't have very much control of their plan, or no control, because they're often given, a couple of different options. They have to pick one of those. You have to fit in the box. And our challenge, or what we find challenging, or most employers find challenging in that solution, is that because it's 100% fixed cost, there's no opportunity for savings. It is what it is. You get handed an arbitrary increase year over year with little reasoning or little information or data to know why you got that increase. So in the good years, the insurance company keeps all the profits, right? So that is the challenge there. What some employers and advisors have done, and they looked at level funded or partially self-funded programs, or even traditional self-funding. And here, you got less fixed cost, right? You go from 100% down to anywhere from 40 to 60% fixed cost. This makes a little more spend variable, so a little more attractive to that employer. They get a little more control, they get more reporting. They get typically full reporting, right? Because it's like traditional self-funding, and you get more data so you can analyze what's going on. But I jokingly say this is where you're self-funded, but you're self-funded on an island by yourself. So when you do have that bad year, there's nobody there to protect you. You're on your own, and you typically, as a group, as an employer, get hit with the brunt of that renewal. And then for the advisors on the phone today, on the call, they've seen the large increases that some of these level funded and partially self-funded programs have after the first year, second year, third year. And it's really, it doesn't speak to that long-term strategy. So enter the group captive, which is what I get excited about. What I get really passionate about is where our fixed costs tend to be 15% fixed cost. The group gets full control, full transparency of data and information, so clarity on what they're spending their money on. I mean, some of these groups are spending upwards of $500,000 to $1 million in healthcare, and they don't know what they're spending their money on. To me, that's the price of admission alone, is getting that data. Forget about the cost, but additionally, it provides cost savings, because when the group actually performs well, they keep the difference. And that, to me, is the biggest opportunity for employers to save money in our group captives. When they perform well, they keep 100% of what's not spent in their claims funding. They also participate in a pooling environment with other like-minded employers. And we collect insurance premiums throughout the year. But guess what? When we don't need those premiums, we give those premiums back to the participants pro rata. So this is yet another way to make a fixed cost variable. We give that check back, whether they renew with us or not, but we encourage that long-term stay. Listen, we're in it with you guys. This is a partnership. We have a full CSI team to help drive down costs. We bring that transparency and that information to the advisor, and together, collaboratively, we work to really mitigate this cost and really mitigate your year-over-year increases, so that you can get control over this plan and really stay for the long term. So the group captive, obviously you can tell I'm very passionate about it. That, to me, makes the most logical sense from a fixed cost versus variable cost standpoint. But you've got to have the right advisor, and we have to look at the data and see if it makes sense for your group.
So if I could, what I wrote down here, Eddie, were 3 key components that your funding strategy needs to offer, and that's reporting, flexibility, and high variable cost.
That's right.
With those 3 components, you can control your spend for, in some cases, could be the second or third largest expense for an employer. So Lisa, I would like your insights on this step in the process. We talk a lot about, the employer's decision, right? And how it impacts the employer and the potential cost savings. But one really, really important piece is what's the member's experience, right? So if I'm an employee of a 100 employee firm and my company decides to go from fully insured to self-funding, how does that feel for me as a member of the health plan?
Yeah, and really, although self-funding gives the employer full transparency, and there's a lot of information and control on the front end in order to get this up and running, The member will still feel like it is a fully insured product. They're really going to feel no different. They are going to receive an ID card from Bywater. Bywater will be their insurance carrier. That ID card will allow them to go to the provider, will allow them to go to the pharmacy, have that experience that they had with their fully insured carrier. We provide SBCs just as they've received in the past. We provide plan documents. They'll have a member portal that will give them access to all of their EOBs, claims information, family information, anything that they had access to before. We provide and equip that member to be able to move forward with any services that they need to have and to be taken care of. We have a customer support line, and our customer support will provide them all of the information that they're looking for based on co-pays, how their deductible will work, how their plan works, how certain services will process. We really equip the employers with all of the information, just as they had before, for their members to feel comfortable and be able to go to the provider and say, I do have insurance, here is my card, and just go through that normal process.
Yeah, that's a good point. You know, so bottom line is, Lisa, what I'm hearing, as long as you have the right advisor, you have a good TPA, the employer's engaged, the experience is really no different. Whether, as far as the member's experience is concerned, there's no difference between self-funded and fully insured.
No, from the member point of view, absolutely not. It is really a streamlined process, and there really should not be that. They should not feel any type of shift in impact with the change. So it's really a win-win in my opinion. So.
Yep. Okay, very good. Thank you. Okay, so we're coming up on about 6 minutes left. Eddie, I'm going to let you tee it off on step 3. Where do we go from here?
Well, I'm going to keep this one very short. Step
Yeah,
3.
right.
Step 3 is the selector partners. And this is often the intimidating part for a lot of brokers and groups. They're like, how do I do this? How do I even put this together? Well, the good news is that we do all the work for you. We've already done it for you. We've vetted out various TPAs, third-party administrators, PBMs, pharmacy benefit managers, and different cost containment solutions. And when you get one of our proposals, speaking to the advisors out there in the group and to the groups that are on the call, when you get one of our proposals, it's binding, it's fully underwritten, it's all in. So you don't have to go out and shop stop loss and try to figure out, okay, who's going to manage this plan for me? It's all in. So we've received the submission. We had our underwriters look at the group individually to underwrite it based on our underwriting manuals. We looked at the preferred partners and plugged all the solutions in, and we laid it out for you and made it very easy. So it's very turnkey. It's easy as we're trying to make it as easy as possible, because like I said, in the past, you think captive, you think complicated. This was Roundstone's goal here, is to create a turnkey solution so that we can deliver a proposal, implement the plan with the TPA like Bywater, and we're ready to go on your effective date. You don't have to worry about plugging cost containment solutions. And by the way, those cost containment solutions throughout the year, if we identify issues that are coming up that pop up on a reporting that comes in from the third-party administrator, our CSI team, which I will define, I saw somebody was asking a question. Our CSI team is not CSI Cleveland. It's actually our cost savings investigators team, which is made up of nurses and attorneys, claims folks, subrogation folks, our cost containment consultants that have done the vetting work for all, over 200 different cost containment solutions that are in the marketplace. We're making those recommendations back to the advisor to make to the group and say, listen, here's what we see. Here's what we think you should implement. It's up to you at the end of the day. Our job is to keep fixed costs low. We think this could help you. And it's not always a cost plus type service. It could be a simple plan design change. It could be a multitude of things. But I think the idea here is we're not going to force feed you having to do any particular services. We're going to make those recommendations when we think they make sense for the group.
Yeah, so at the end of the day, Eddie, basically we're unbundling the fully insured services, selecting best in class, bundling them back up, and then putting a bow on it.
That's right.
Right? Everything's been vetted and everything works seamlessly. Okay, we have a couple minutes left and we have some really good questions coming in. And Lisa, I think this would be a great one for you. And this is something we get a lot. And this has to do with the member experience, right? And this is from Alan. It says, employees and employers feel comfortable with an ID card that says United or Aetna or other well-recognized insurance companies. What is the reaction when they have an ID card that says Bywater, which states that is it well received, and what hesitancies are there to overcome?
Yeah, that's a really good question. So although Bywater is on the forefront of the ID card, we do have a Cigna logo on the ID card with an identifier. That's an indicator for the provider to know that Bywater is a TPA. So it might be new for the member. Bywater is not well known. We understand that, and most TPAs are not well known. But with the Cigna identifier, on the ID card, the provider will know what to do with the claim, with the service. They'll know to follow the information on the ID card. They'll know where to submit the claim. The claims will go through Cigna to be processed through the discount, and have that discount applied, and then that transition from Cigna directly to Bywater. So all of the behind the scenes will feel no different for the member. And all of our materials too are all Bywater facing. And we, at the beginning of the process too, will provide materials that do explain the relationship between Bywater, the network that we use, which is primarily Cigna, but the network that we use, and then the PBM that's in place. So the members will have member materials to have with them to be able to explain or learn about the different relationships that we have in place for this program.
Yeah, that's great. And, I can speak from personal experience, Lisa. When I went to work for Roundstone, I came from a large Fortune 500 company. We had United Healthcare and, low deductible, big company plan, and went to a self-funded plan in the captive with Cigna. And it was seamless to me. It was, I just handed my card to the doctor or the pharmacy and everything worked fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so we're at 11:30. I think I can answer these last two questions kind of together. The one question is, what carriers do you work with? And, we work with a number of different carrier networks, right? Depending on what region of the country and what TPA we're working with. And typically we work with, United Healthcare, Cigna, and Aetna. And then we also have access to narrow networks and direct provider systems. And then there was a question is, it's gone. I guess it disappeared. Something to do with, is Cigna the network of providers for employees? And the answer is yes, it is. Okay, well, it's a wrap, 11:31. I want to sincerely thank Eddie and Lisa for taking time today and joining us. Your commentary was very insightful and very helpful. And I would like to thank everyone on the call today. It's been a lot of fun, and hopefully you'll participate in some of the other Summer Breeze webinar series that are available. Have a great day, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you.
Have a good one. Bye-bye.